did it and you didn't tell me.
I'm sorry. Hey, baby, we're going live.
Hey, thanks, baby. Good morning.
It has been a morning around here. So sorry. I mean, well, if you've been paying attention, you might have seen we went live and then we stopped. Because...
Yeah, I'll delete that one. The one 9 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Oh, I probably can't delete that one because it's your page.
It's on my page. I can delete it.
But we're here now.
I'll do it.
On the screen you're watching. Here we are.
Here we am. Sorry.
You know, we've been doing this now for a while, and yet, I can't get this to work right. The phones, technology. We've been doing this for a while, and we've been pretty consistent. And I made the mistake of saying, "Then don't worry about it. We just won't go live today." And thank you for saying, "Yes, we are."
Yes, we are.
I don't know if we're live on all of our platforms today.
Yeah, I don't think we are. I don't think
that's
Rumble,
okay.
I don't think Rumble worked.
That's okay. We're gonna win. We're gonna go live one place.
Yeah, well, I think we're on Facebook.
We're on Facebook.
Obviously.
Woohoo!
Hi, Facebook. I think we're probably on YouTube, but I don't know.
Something went wrong. You think? Oh yeah.
Did you say that?
No, the Facebook said that.
Oh.
On me trying to connect to you.
Yeah, something went wrong.
So yeah, here we are.
Hi.
I'm gonna. Okay, there. That's live.
I'm Seth.
I want to be. I'm Tammy.
We are the 4031 family.
And it's
I know.
Friday.
I changed the subject. It's Friday the 13th.
It's Friday. It's Friday.
It's Friday the 13th.
Yeah, it is June 13th, 2025.
And
it's, I'm kind of feeling like the world's falling apart right now.
Well, I don't think it's falling apart.
It's not. It's just a little chaotic everywhere you turn around.
Israel is...
And a powder keg.
Yeah, they're taking out strategic targets in Iran, apparently.
And
starting last
from
night.
what I saw on I have no idea what page I was looking at, scrolling in the middle of the night. Lots of...
What are we doing up in the middle of the night?
I couldn't sleep.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Lots of high-level officials getting gone.
Yeah, they
that
took
they
out...
are no longer. And high-level Iranian officials.
They were, as I said, they were strategic, tactical, preemptive strikes.
Yeah.
We won't talk about the merits of them. But
it's a testy time right now.
It is a testy time. It is a testy time it's the Middle East, so
it's the Middle East for that. But then you've got I'm sorry, I'm so stiff today. All the unrest in our country right now, leading into this weekend.
Yeah, protests planned around the country for this weekend.
Yeah, I
Not
saw
sure what for, but
a flyer calling for protests to be formed in Fort Worth, and seeing things on the news already about people being offered $200 a day to rile things up and
to go protest, but to
cause a disruption,
problems.
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
it's really scary. I'm grateful that there are people coming forward saying, "Look, these people offered me money to cause a problem today."
Yeah,
and that's terrifying.
Yeah, it's one of the great things about our country is having free speech, the ability to speak your mind, to dissent with the government, to make your grievances known and such like that. And I don't have any problem with anybody exercising their right to free speech. I do have a problem when it appears that there are organizations that are using free speech as a method to promote their ideals and to instigate unrest, especially when we don't know who they are.
Right.
Who are the actors? Who are the people who
behind the money
seem to be paying people to cause trouble?
How are pallets of bricks
showing up?
Just showing up. And I mean, we saw this in the time of COVID too.
Yeah. Yeah. There's someone behind this. There's an organization or multiple. I don't know, but it's
scary. It's scary.
It's scary because really, if you're out there in one of these protests, I believe that there are people at these protests who feel very strongly about whatever it is that they're protesting here.
But know what you're protesting.
But understand that you're really being used.
Yeah. There are ways to make your voice heard, and this isn't it.
Well, I'm not going to say it isn't it. And there's a long tradition of nonviolent protests. And
violent protests is not it. That's not the way to go about having your grievance heard or your issue heard.
Yeah, I mean, it's the nonviolent protests that worked.
The thing that hurts me the most, and it doesn't matter if it was from yesterday or if it was from decades past, because I know it's not a new thing. I hate watching our flag get burned. It is so painful when you think about the people who have died trying to protect our flag and what it represents, and it's really, you witnessed your stepfather being taken out under a flag, when he passed away, and we all know people who have had the flag draped coffins. That flag represents something, and to see it disgraced in such a way of being set afire and being trampled on, it just breaks my heart. It just breaks my heart.
Can I maybe put words in your mouth on
Sure.
that? I agree with you, except I don't care about a piece of cloth. It's not about the flag.
That's why I said it's about what it represents.
I know. That's why I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that is the point. To me, you made the comment yesterday. There should be laws against burning the flag. I don't.
There are codes. I mean, there are codes rules of conduct.
Yeah, but they're just
the flag.
rules of conduct. They're not enforceable really, unless you're in the military. Unless there's a thing. But again, when you see the flag being burned, what that represents is someone's hatred of the country and the freedoms that they're using to burn the flag. You can't. The fact that you can protest this country means you're using the rights and privileges that are afforded you. Rights are not afforded you by the government. Rights are human and unalienable, which I think is actually unalienable. Did you know that?
I didn't.
Yeah, I think that's
interesting.
It's not
LIEN.
Yeah, alienable. They're not able to be taken.
Interesting.
It is
inalienable.
It's unalienable. Anyway,
interesting.
I think that's correct. But you make use of those rights to protest having. I don't know, whatever. But it's a flag. You want to burn the flag, burn the flag. I don't like it. I don't like what that says about you, in the sense that your disdain.
If you don't like our country,
and it makes it makes you look like a hypocrite to use your First Amendment rights to protest having a First Amendment. I mean, whatever. But that's whatever. So from the Constitution
to the Bible
to the Ten Commandments.
We are still using the Days of Praise devotions from the Institute for Creation Research. You can go to www.icr.org/DOP for Days of Praise. You can sign up and receive one of these in your mailbox, snail mail version, once a quarter. And then you can also receive this electronically through, you would get a daily devotion. So you would receive it daily, even on the weekends, even on holidays. It goes every day.
Vamp.
Yeah, so it will get to you.
No, you don't have to do that slowly.
You can read along at your own timing, at your own pace. You can go.
Did we mention we were having trouble this morning?
And if you go to the website, you can also see previous Days of Praise. If you are following along with us and missed a day, you can always go back that way as well.
You could probably do that on whatever platform you're watching too. You can just go back, because Facebook will keep these for a month nowadays, but YouTube, they should stay forever. You can go back and look at the old ones.
Yeah, Facebook rules lives are only on our pages for 30 days.
30 days.
But again, we are on all the platforms. So you should find even ones past 30 days over, specifically on YouTube.
On YouTube, but Rumble, once we've been on X for 30 days, you can find them going back on X, but we haven't been doing that.
Slow-moving machine.
Excuse me. So today we're doing what? Which commandment is
God is now searching for me, adding. Today is the 7th commandment.
Adding
adultery.
Adultery.
Well, we're not adding adultery. The A represents the
word adultery.
The key for you to remember that this commandment is about adultery and the fact that thou shalt not commit.
No adultery is pretty much what the Bible says.
Don't do it.
Thou shalt not commit adultery.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, we're really glad you're here.
I was trying to wrap up.
We're kind of we're done. We're kind of everywhere today, aren't we? Why don't we go ahead with the verse? Do you want to? Do you want to?
Oh, put it on the screen. I didn't do that.
You didn't do that.
Did we mention we're having a day?
It's today is a day of testing.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? That's
but
all right.
We're still here.
We're
winning.
Thou shalt not commit adultery.
Yeah, don't do it.
Yeah. This commandment's obvious application is for marital fidelity. God created one man and one woman for that union. Genesis 1, 2, 1 Corinthians 11, blah, 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 blah. Adam himself recognized the sanctity of marriage in Genesis 2, 23 through 25. Christ verified and reaffirmed this fidelity in Matthew 5, 27, and again in Matthew 19, verses 4 through 6. Adultery murders a marriage and was punished with the death penalty.
Interesting.
Leviticus 20:10.
Interesting way to...
Well, if you think about a marriage as defined by God, I mean, it's a covenant between two people and God. And if you break the covenant, one of the... well, you go back into Genesis 15, I think it is, where God is enacting the covenant with Abraham initially, and he gives him this vision of having a bunch of animals cut in half and separated. Because when you were making a covenant in the time, you sacrificed animals and you split them apart, and then the two parties passed between them. It's called cutting a covenant. So you get blood on your robe or whatever. And the intention of that was, hey, if we break this covenant, let this happen to me, like this happened to these animals. So breaking a covenant with your spouse, between you, your spouse, and God, if you break a covenant,
wow,
death penalty was the
end result.
Penalty. Yeah. Death was the penalty. The Bible also gives several parallel restrictions. Premarital sex is forbidden in Deuteronomy 22 and 1 Corinthians 6, as is the practice of prostitution in Leviticus 19. The perversion of homosexual behavior is forbidden in Deuteronomy 23, as is the practice of religious sexual rites in Hosea 4. The purpose of these social restrictions of the Mosaic Law is to set a clear and visible distinction between God's people and the rest of the nations. God abhorred such behavior, as he says in Leviticus 20, verse 23, because these sins defiled the land. Leviticus 18, 24 through 28. Perhaps even more damning than the physical sins was the false worship of other gods. Jeremiah 3:20. And there is the crux, kind of here. We had one verse from Hosea earlier.
Right.
You're looking at me. Do you understand? Do you know?
I don't know.
You don't know the story of Hosea?
No, but I'm going to listen to you.
Well, let's see if he touches it. If not, we'll come back to it.
That's Gomer, right?
Yeah. And who was Gomer?
Was a prostitute.
She was.
See, this is where it gets confusing for me, because Gomer in the Bible is a woman, and my grandfather was a Gomer, and he was not a woman. So to me, Gomer has always been a male name, not a female name. So it takes me a minute to work through who Gomer was.
Well, then, if that's the case, then when you read it, call her Gomer. No, because that would be how you said it in Hebrew, because the accent's on the second syllable. We say Gomer. She would have said Gomer.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. But who was she?
A prostitute.
Yes.
That's all I know.
Okay, we'll do this now.
Okay. Sorry.
So Hosea was a prophet, And he was commanded by God to marry Gomer. Why? Because Israel had prostituted itself by bowing to other gods.
Okay.
They had committed idolatry. They had let the idolatry of the people in the land that they were moving into, into Canaan. I mean, God had said wipe them all out, so this didn't happen. They didn't. And so the idolatry and the Baal worship and all this stuff was sort of creeping into Jewish culture. And so God says to Hosea, go marry a prostitute. And it's not like marry a prostitute and make her an honest woman. He married a working prostitute. And the image here was that this is what Israel has done to him.
Okay.
That they've gone after other gods. And the picture of marriage between God and his people, we think of it as a New Testament thing, but it goes all the way back into the Old Testament.
Mm-hmm.
It's God has always been a bridegroom for his people. Israel in the Old Testament, the church, including Israel in the New Testament.
So if we're told in the Bible that adultery is punishable by death, and God instructs Hosea to marry a prostitute, and if she's still active in that lifestyle, then would she not have had to be killed by Leviticus law?
Yeah. Yeah, Levitical law would have said she should be.
Was she
killed.
not?
She was not. No, because again, Israel had sort of
fallen away from the law.
We had talked about this word a couple of weeks ago too. They were syncretistic. They were syncretism.
Mm-hmm,
they were incorporating the culture around them into their daily life and appropriating it where it was convenient. You get to pick and choose, right? You get to, we'll have the. I'm trying to think of a funny example. It would be like driving down the road and saying, well, if we're Jewish, we can go 30 miles an hour, but if we're Gentiles, we can go 50. So I'm going to pretend to be a Gentile today and go 50.
Okay.
I mean, that's the thing. They were picking and choosing what was convenient and not, and it was convenient that Gomer not be killed. So, or they wanted to have their prostitutes. So
now I have not read the book of Hosea. Obviously,
we'll
did he lose favor in God's eyes by
Hosea?
Yeah.
So no.
So he wouldn't have, because God told him to do this.
God told him to. Yeah.
Okay. I know what my weekend's going to be.
Well, and I mean, if you think about it, and it's been forever since I've read the whole book.
It's part of the minor prophets, right?
Yeah. He doesn't commit adultery by marrying her. She does. Right? I mean, so it's not like he's guilty of something. And God told him to do it, so,
Okay.
Anyway.
Sorry for that sidetrack. Now, then you pointed out the Jeremiah 3:20 verse. What is that? Do I need to know that one too?
I didn't point that out.
You did when we finished that. You're like, well, and there it is.
Well, I'm talking about the false sins of other gods. Jeremiah 3:20. Surely as a wife treacherously departs from her husband, so have you dealt treacherously with me, O house of Israel, says the Lord. So it's the same thing. That parallel that God is making between his relationship with Israel, or God's relationship with the church, as we would talk about it today, and the fact that they had turned from him was as serious a thing as, this is funny, I say it was as serious a thing as a wife cheating on her husband, which is not worse than a husband cheating on his wife. We're not. No,
I hear you.
Yeah, I mean that's not the issue here. But what was I going to say? Oh, it was funny. Not funny, haha, but funny.
I don't know.
Inconsistent.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Let's rewind.
I could watch it back, but I won't see it in my brain to know what I was thinking 3 minutes ago.
That'd be scary.
What were we were talking about?
Well, I don't know if it's where your
thing.
brain went. It's where my brain went. And so we're watching a show where a woman is cheating on her husband. and the guy she's cheating with knows she's married. So both of those things are wrong. But then in this last episode, her husband apparently made it clear, now we're done. And she's crying in her lover's arms because her husband left her. It's like, what did you think would happen?
Right.
And why are you crying? Why are you seeking comfort from the...
Right.
Yeah. That was funny.
Come to your senses, people.
Right.
Anyway,
sorry.
So that's okay. Let's bring it back home.
We are home.
I know.
Go ahead.
The Lord Jesus clearly equated lust and adultery, Matthew 5:28, noting that the heart is the source of all evil actions. In fact, in the New Testament, any worldly association is whoredom, and such friendship is enemy with God.
Enmity.
Enmity with God, yes. James 4:4.
Any worldly association is whoredom.
Anything
that separates you from God.
The James 4:4 verse that it's using there says that friendship with the world is enmity with God. You adulterers and adulteresses, know you not that the friendship of the world is enmity with God? Whosoever therefore will be a friend of the world is the enemy of God. And that's not saying if you like trees, if you like the creation. We're supposed to like the creation. You're supposed to be able to see and worship through the creation. But friendship with the world in the sense of the secular or non-Judeo-Christian basis for religion. And so the world as defined by the world, as opposed to the proper decorum as defined by God.
Okay. The things that can pull you away.
Yeah. Anything that sets itself against.
Well, and that's where it gets tricky, because some things that you get distracted by don't seem to be a conflict.
Sure.
And then the slope.
Yeah.
You don't realize that the thing in which you are getting involved can become, it's not a big deal now.
Yeah, I mean, it's
just a conversation.
So here's a horrible example of that. My grandmother, who's been gone for quite a while, was totally offended by 90% of the stuff she saw on television.
I know who you're talking about.
I mean, like when I would go visit,
I think I do.
When I would go visit them, it was Pat Robertson and Jimmy Swaggart on the TV all the time, but watching anything primetime would offend her, and it was horrible.
But watch out for the 12 to 3 time period. But her stories.
She loved her One Life. I think it was One Life to Live, or one of those that she watched for like 40 years.
My nanny, it was and you hear this all the time. Don't mess with the ladies' stories. It's right. The stories. I'm missing my stories.
Yeah, the soap operas, right? And honestly, it's not that it's inconsistent, because when your nanny, my grandmother, started watching those stories, they were totally, innocent. They weren't wholesome, but they were not.
It's not where they are today.
They was not where they are today. It is the classic example of the frog in the boiling water.
Yeah.
You put a frog in boiling water, he hops out. You put him in cold water and you put it on the stove and you turn the heat up slowly, it'll die because and it's that kind of thing. It's that burn. Slow exposure. She started
the slow fade.
Yeah. You start
Casting Crown.
There you go. It's a slow fade. Sorry. That's right. You start watching something and you just get into it. You get into the stories, and very little by little the world creeps more and more and more and more into it. And before you know it, those things that you hate when you see them on TV at night, right? You're watching them at 3 p.m, the exact same stuff.
Be careful, little eyes, what you see. It's the second glance that ties your hands as darkness pulls the strings. Be careful, little feet, where you go, for it's the little feet behind you that are sure to follow.
Yeah.
It's a slow fade when you give yourself away. It's a slow fade when black and white have turned to gray. And thoughts invade, choices made, a price will be paid when you give yourself away. people never crumble in a day.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one thing I like about that first verse of it. It's the second glance.
Yeah, because you can't help what you see.
Right.
You can't help what you look at.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And it's seeing is not sinful, whatever it is. Right. Because but when you look, when you seek it out, when you do a double take, oh, you know, I mean, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
That's where the slippery slope starts, right? And we fall into sometimes we fall into syncretism. Let's go back to that word where we let things into our churches, right? And so they suddenly seem like they're okay because there's a great example of this, right? But we shouldn't.
I know.
Yeah, we shouldn't go there.
Saw, heard, did it in church, therefore it must be okay.
Therefore it must be okay.
Yeah.
No, church is not. Your church is not the determiner of morals.
And your church is not infallible.
That's why they're not the determiner of morals, right?
Yeah.
Because
just because it happens in a church does not mean it is always godly.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Dr. Morris concludes, we are surrounded by an overt promotion of such behavior. It's funny, this is exactly what we're talking about, right? Enticing all to engage freely. It is distributed to us through books, movies, TV, internet, music, fashion, and other venues. Surely it is clear that the Christian must conform to biblical standards, not the world's tolerance or permission.
Yeah.
You know that 20 years ago, you said something to me when you were preparing for a choral thing that is so appropriate in like so many situations.
Yeah.
And that is, anytime you do anything, you're always and really only doing it for an audience of one. And including things you don't think you have an audience for. That's kind of the point. You know, that you don't do anything in secret.
I remember having that discussion with the kids when they were little of just because I'm not in the room doesn't mean you're alone.
Right.
And, you know, God's watching.
Right.
And this was when they were doing school. I mean, it was an innocent thing or whatever, but it was God. You're never alone. God is always there. Should be a comfort, but also that check.
It's
you know,
a check. That
yeah.
accountability.
Yeah.
You know, you need to know God's not mocked. I mean, you don't have something. You don't have a secret place that you can go do something that won't be found out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So God's always present, but also coming back to this lyric in Casting Crowns, be careful, little feet, where you go, for it's the little feet behind you that are sure to follow. You don't know who's watching, and you don't know if it's somebody who is either little in their age or little in their faith. And you, whether you want to be or not, are an example to others.
This is one of those things that people struggle with in the New Testament in dealing with the issue of Christian freedom, Christian liberty. It's often talked about. There were strict prohibitions in the Old Testament, for an example. We'll use this one example. Strict prohibitions in the Old Testament about eating meat that had been sacrificed to idols because it had been dedicated to idols. It was, it was considered unclean, and you couldn't touch that or anything. But Paul talks in the New Testament. He's dealing with a problem at one of the churches, and he tells them basically, it's just meat, people.
Yeah.
But it's just meat. You don't need to worry. It's not inherently poisonous or anything like that. But, and the but's important, you don't know who's going to watch you eat it.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people, new Christians, Jewish Christians, that's the issue that they were dealing with, is you had these Gentile believers who ate meat sacrificed to idols all the time, not because they were sacrificed to idols, because it's dinner.
Right.
That's where the dinner came
They
from.
weren't under those restrictions.
Right. And then but there are these Jewish believers who were looking down on them and saying, oh, you're eating meat sacrificed to idols. And Paul's like, it's just meat. But if you eat it, if in eating it you cause somebody else to stumble or question or worry or, then you shouldn't do it. So, yes, we have liberty. But with liberty comes, Spider-Man,
I know,
right? It's Spider-Man, right? With great power comes, or great liberty. That's the story of America, right? With great liberty comes great responsibility, to protect that liberty for us in America. Went down the wrong side.
And that doesn't mean that we have to suddenly give away all of our freedoms, but we can also, in that moment, be aware and be respectful of somebody else's potential stumble.
If it's perfectly fine for you to eat meat sacrificed to an idol and you're getting ready to sit down to a big old Bale burger.
That is not on my menu.
No, it's not on my menu. But if you're, but there's somebody there who has an issue. It's bacon maybe is a great example for us today. We can eat bacon. Jewish Christians probably would choose not to. Right? Just because it's their historical identity. And in those instances, it is better for Christian unity for people who have Christian liberty to abstain.
Yeah.
So as to not cause unnecessary division over something which is honestly a trivial issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And have it be a quiet thing. You don't need to make a show of your restraint.
Right, exactly. You just don't cook bacon.
Yeah.
You will cook bacon.
Yes, sir. Hey, once again this week, we are overtime.
Overtime.
Hey, we hope you have had...
Time and a half.
We hope you have an amazing weekend. We will be back Monday morning.
9:30 a.m. Central Time.
We would love it if you would do the appropriate reaction, depending on your platform. Like follow,
love,
subscribe,
share.
Share it above anything.
Check us out at the4031family.com.
Yeah.
You can go to Buy Me a Coffee / the 4031 Family and buy us some popcorn.
It's just a way of doing a little financial support of our family business.
You can subscribe to us there on Buy Me a Coffee, and if you do that, there are some goodies that you'll get every month, and including including coupons in the amount of your subscription, so that it's given back to you.
Yeah.
So we got all
if there's anything we can pray about for you, please feel free to drop a comment. Pray for me. If you want to email us personally, you can do so at praywithme@the4031family, or Seth or Tammy at the 4031 Family if you need one of us personally. I think that's all of our quick housekeeping notes on that. We will be back Monday morning, 9:30 Central.
God willing.
We hope you'll join us.
And the creek don't rise.
If you're local, we hope to see you at church on Sunday morning.
Unless you're local and don't go to our church, in which case...
Maybe we'll see you around town. I don't know.
I don't know either.
But I won't be in Fort Worth or Dallas. But have a great weekend. Be safe. Know we love you. And we'll see you Monday morning. On behalf of the 4031 family, I'm Tammy.
I'm Seth.
Remember, he's God.
No, we're not.
See you later.
Have a great weekend.